Hello and welcome. This is a special tutorial version of one of my live streams, but I really wanted to do some screen sharing. So I decided to pre-record it because who knows? Who knows what happens when I try and screen share live. But today, I want to get you familiar with my syllabus study tracker. This is something that I mention in almost every one of my videos. It is free, it is linked below. But today, I am going to actually show you how to go through it and how to actually use it, as well as giving you a preview of some of the pages. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. This here is a copy of the actual semester study planner. So when you go down to the link in the description, this is exactly what you get when you download it. So you can see this is just a little bit of a cover page and then we jump right in. So this looks like a lot is happening on the page. There's an entire grid, but we're going to break it down step by step and I'm going to show you exactly what it is and how to use it. So the very first thing you're going to see here is that it has all of the topics. There's room for all of the topics to be listed here. And I actually have a sample of a syllabus and I'm going to show you exactly what to do with this list here. And then you can see all of the activities. These are the basic activities in order that I would use in order to ace my classes. This is every single study session that I would do with each piece of information to make sure that I was studying it in a bunch of different ways and I was getting it, really marinated in and exposing the information with different activities and making sure that I could fully understand and work with all of it. So there's always starting out with lecture notes, rewriting your notes, reading from the textbook, getting vocabulary, diagrams, all of those things. And I would list all of the topics one by one that I was studying along the side here. And I would fill in each of these little squares as I completed that task. So once I had the lecture for a concept, I would go ahead and I would just fill in this little square here. And those were just my dirty, messy lecture notes. Then I would go home, and when I got around to rewriting the next lecture notes, I would copy it in, fill in for each of those individual concepts here. Then when I would read the textbook for those concepts, I would fill in the next one, and I would just have a whole bunch of these pages. And what I would do is I would track each and every single concept. So that really helps when you are juggling so many different classes, so much information, because trying to remember what you have and haven't done is a lot of clutter in your brain to carry around. You have to remember, oh, I redid the lecture notes for this class, but I haven't read the textbook yet. Or in a totally different class, it's like, okay, I read the textbook for that one, but we haven't gotten to it in lecture. So it's really important to be able to know what you're working on at any given time and what you have left to do, what you don't have left. That way you can so easily just go back and fill in the activities that you haven't done yet and just check those off. So when you are planning out your study sessions for the week or what you want to study, or if you have some extra time to go back and review, you can easily see what you need to study more, what you've only studied a little bit, and what you've really taken the time and gotten through. So let me show you a quick example of a syllabus and how I would track between the two. So I have a couple of syllabi up here. Here, let's look at this one. These are real syllabus that I really took. So, for example, when you have your syllabus that has a whole bunch of class information, it has everything. It has everything you need. And one day I will go through a syllabus and actually break down how to read it. But you can see here, it gives you your required materials. It tells you what you're going to be learning, how your class is broken down, and how the marks are allotted. And then it gives you the course outline, which is really important. So this looks like a super short course outline, but it's really because it's just not that detailed. So you can see introduction one, mitosis and meiosis. So sure, on the cover, on the outline, you could definitely go back over to your study planner and write meiosis here and then mitosis here. And that would be great. This is I think this is a cell biology. What class is this? Oh, this is genetics. So you could go through and see chapter three, mitosis, meiosis, and then go back and say, okay, mitosis here and meiosis here. But if you really want to get the most out of it, you'll actually go and grab your textbook and actually write down all of the subunits inside chapter three. So mitosis is going to be broken up into all of the different steps. So you might want to and all of the different steps. And so you can put each of the steps in one of these slots. You can put you can break it down even further if you want to and put like each one of the sub steps or each concept or everything that happens within each one of those steps into each of these, just depending on how detailed you want to be. This is an entire chapter that's just dealing with two concepts, so you know that you want to really, really, really get those two concepts really, really deep. At the end of describing the two concepts and how they're done, and even breaking down piece by piece all of the different stages of mitosis and meiosis, maybe you might also want to put another couple of concepts just listing that you want to study how they're different, because there are some key differences not only in the purpose of those two types of cell division, but also in how the DNA is broken up and how the DNA is either duplicated or replicated in each. Now, because I wanted to come prepared with a couple of different um, examples, I'm going to show you another example of a totally different one. This is cell biology, so similar concept, but this is a much, much more detailed syllabus. And you might see a syllabus like this. In this syllabus, it's really detailed in that every single class, it tells you exactly what's going to be studied. So you can go through and you can put each and every one of these on your syllabus tracker, and you can see there's a whole bunch. And again, depending on how detailed you want to be, you can even break this up a little bit deeper. So you can say like introduction to cells and then go and grab your textbook and see, okay, in introduction to cells, and when I go through these pages, these are all of the different concepts that are discussed. So you can really dive as deep as you want to track your course as thoroughly as you want and your study habits as thoroughly as you want. This is also great because it helps you when you choose to study. If you are tracking them really, really thoroughly and you are writing down each subtopic and each heading that you want to study. So when you are going through and you're choosing something to study, you can choose it to study exactly what you want to. Say for whatever reason, you are only specifically interested in studying the tertiary foldings of proteins, and that's the only thing that you want to study that day. Well, you can go through on your study syllabus planner and see exactly how you have studied that particular concept. Now, of course, for when you're doing like the lecture notes and the textbook, you'll probably be able to fill in a bunch of these at a time and just do them in bulk. But to make sure that you are going through test questions and so on, that way you can really, really check into and check out what you have studied a lot of and what you feel like you need to focus on a little bit more. So that is just the first page of this syllabus tracker, the study syllabus tracker, because it uses your syllabus to be able to study the course contents. There is also a blank page. So once you go through all of these, or if you have a totally different study process that works best for you, you can put in your own activities across the front and still be able to track everything you need to. Next, there is a weekly planner so that you can go in and you can slot in your study times. and what you need to do, your daily top three for your top three goals for the day or study topics or concepts for the day, and really be able to make goals, track important dates, appointments, deadlines, anything like that that you have to track throughout the week. This is just a nice, quick desktop tracker that you can make sure you are filling in your study time for the week and making sure that you are studying all of the concepts and getting done everything that you need to get completed. In the bundle, there is also a Pomodoro planner. Now, in the Pomodoro planner, it does this, it allows you to actually schedule and break down your exact study session. So when you plan out your week, you also can grab all of these Pomodoro planners, one for each study session. Each one of these tracks an entire 2-hour study session. So on your first break, you're going to be doing cell biology. And your first task is that you are going to read the textbook about the tertiary structure of proteins. That is what you're going to be doing for this 25-minute block. Then you get a 5-minute break. And then after that, you are going to do flashcards on mitosis for genetics. And that's how you break up your study time. Then you get another 5-minute break, and then you pick another task and another subject. Maybe you're going to go back and you're going to read your textbook on the tertiary structure of proteins. That's okay because you had a nice little break in between with something more engaging to do, and you're going to go right back at it. And maybe the fourth block, you want to compare the four levels of the structures of proteins. And then that can kind of be a nice wrap up. Then you have your 20-minute break, and either you go and do what other obligations you have for the day, or you start another Pomodoro study planner. So this also included in that freebie linked below. Finally, I have a get organized checklist. This is just some things that you can to help you stay on top of your organization for the day, because student life gets busy and it's super easy to fall out of organization. One and these are some things. A lot of these I like to actually do in the 5 and 20-minute breaks between study sessions. So sorting mail, like going through my inbox, like picking up clutter for 5 minutes. These are nice, quick little tasks that you can fit in between there. Or if you have time and you're just trying to create a habit of getting organized and decluttering and staying on top of things, this is a great checklist to just take care of regularly. Finally, a Q&A planner. This is another thing that is included in the freebie, like I said, and this is a setup to help you write your own practice quizzes. So again, you print off a bunch of these, and then when you find a fact that you want to memorize, that you want to remember, that you feel is going to be important, you write the fact. So the fact is, there are four different levels to the protein structure. And so then you can write or rephrase the question 3 times and fill in the answer. Now you can write in that there are four different levels of the protein structure, and then add a little bullet point of each of the important key pieces of information that you need included in your answer. So, saying that there are 4 levels of protein structure and then listing out each of the levels, primary all the way down to tertiary and so on. Maybe maybe your next fact is you want to discuss all of the differences between meiosis and mitosis. And so you would list all of the differences there and rephrase the questions 3 times. So, why rephrase the questions 3 times? Well, that just makes it really easy to immediately make a minimum of 3 different practice tests in one sitting. So then when you have these pages, you can go through and you can pick question 1, question 2, question 3, sort them out and make a whole bunch of different practice quizzes that you can then test yourself on for the rest of the semester. and you did it in one sitting. This is and then also the concept confidence tracker. So this is also something that I really enjoyed having, and I had made one up for myself. When I found a tricky topic that I was really kind of struggling with and having trouble with, I would list it here. So maybe that's protein structure, or maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it is, or maybe it's something totally different. Let's use the Krebs cycle for an example this time. So maybe you're really having trouble with the Krebs cycle. You're working through your study tracker, your study planner, and it's just something that you know, even though you've done all of the exercises on your study tracker, you know it's something that you really have a problem with. So then you can just write it here. You can write just the Krebs cycle and you can say maybe your confidence is 1 or 2. Then you can go back and you can track all of the concepts you know that you're kind of struggling with on this. And you know that those topics need a little bit of TLC. So you can go through, and as you gain more and more confidence, you can go up to levels until you're super confident, until you're a 5. It also has a little place here for your source of concern. So you can explain, I just haven't memorized the Krebs cycle, or I just don't understand I just don't understand why I don't understand it. Whatever it is, you can write your source of concern here to remind yourself when you go back through, oh, yeah, this is where it was sticking. And then you can go through and you can watch a documentary or watch some tutorials and do a whole bunch of different activities to really understand the Krebs cycle and why you don't understand it, or you can finally learn it better, or you can finally get comfortable with it. This tracker is so useful when exam time comes around. When you get closer and closer to exam time, just remember that you have this. You have one location where you put everything that you are not comfortable with, and you can spend extra time on those subjects, even if it looks like you've already done all the examples required and all of the study required up here in the study tracker. Because if you just look here, it might look like you did everything, you filled everything out, but then you can go back and look at your confidence tracker and be like, oh, yeah, I remember now. I was not super comfortable with that. So that is the study tracker. So when you get your syllabus at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the semester, regardless if it's super complicated and detailed and gives you every little piece of information you need, or if it's a little bit more vague like this one, you can go through and you can write down all of the topics you're going to be learning. We can see we're going to learn about monohybrid crosses, dihybrid crosses, a squared statistics. We're going to learn all of these different things. So go and cross reference with your textbook and write down all of those different things on your study tracker so you can check your progress and what you are studying and how thoroughly you're studying throughout the entire semester. Not only that, but once you've written down all of these things and all of the little details about it, you can go forward and study ahead of the professor. That means that by the time you get to the lecture, you've already done some of these things. So by the time we get to lecture, you've already done some of these activities. And so you're already going to know the information when you get to lecture. So now you have turned lecture time from learning to reviewing. And that is really powerful because then you already understand it. So now you're just checking your understanding to make sure that what you've learned is accurate and correct. As the teacher goes, as the professor goes on through the lecture, you can actually test yourself. So you can test yourself on what you believe is right. And then when she tells you the answer or when she discusses and describes the process, you can actually confirm and get some confirmation and get some feedback on how you've remembered and how accurately and how detailed you've remembered. You can even go through, and as she's describing, you can kind of cross reference and cross match some of the deeper, more finite details that you've learned in your studying and your independent studying that now the professor is describing, and do you really understand it at a higher level? This is also great if the professor calls on you because then you know the answer. Or if the professor asks a question, think of the answer and then figure out if how the student that does answer it, did they get it right? Do they have a different understanding than you? How does your answer compare to theirs? And how does what the teacher explains and feeds back to them compare to yours? That way you can get feedback in real time while the professor is really ready to actually teach it like they're there and they are discussing it and they're prepared to give you the feedback you need to understand it fully. So that's why it's great to go and get a little bit ahead. And again, like you can go through and you can do a lot of these you can go through and you can do a lot of these tasks before you've even had the lecture. And then that way you are extra prepared for class. So that is the study syllabus planner. That is a little example of a syllabus. I think I have one more syllabus outlined here, and this is for an actual lab. So this is for my genetics lab, and this does go through and explain it piece by piece so that you are going through and you are seeing what you're learning. Every single lab, I think we had 3 classes a week and then one lab per week. So you can see here in that way, the class was a little bit more detailed in the lab because you can see what you're doing in every single tutorial. And it's exactly the same thing. Put down each and every one of these concepts and sometimes even break them down depending on your lab manual or your lab textbook if you have one for text or for lab. And you can put all of those down separately on your syllabus planner because again, if you're when you're taking labs in university, labs are like a separate class. They have their own workload. So separate what you do for lab and for class and just treat them as 2 separate classes, even though they kind of meld into one mark. So that is how to use your syllabus and how to use it more specifically with the study tracker to be able to get everything you need out of your study time, how to really organize your study time, organize your study plans, and get ready for the semester. Really excel this semester by studying thoroughly, by having a plan, and being able to go through and budget your time. I really hope that you found this video useful. The link to the study planner is down in the description below, so make sure you grab yours. And if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I put out a new video every Thursday, and they are always about study tips, organizational hacks, and homework help to help you through the study struggle. And until next time, I hope you have an amazing adventure.